hold out your hand. How many good city flags do you think you can think of right now? You can pause the video if you want, but I bet that most of you will not be able to name more than 5. And if you can, you found the right YouTube channel. It's so rare to have a good city flag, and that's because a lot of the times the design is made out of a contest, and then there's got to be a lot of compromise, and then you end up with just a mediocre design. That's not the case here in Chicago. The Chicago flag is one of the most iconic and one of the most well-designed city flags anywhere in the world. And I've come here, for some reason in the middle of winter, to explain to you everything about it. The current flag of Chicago was designed by Wallace Rice. He won a competition put on by the City Council in 1917. He was a Harvard-educated author, and he also wrote right here for the Chicago Tribune. The most obvious way to know that you have a good city flag is when people use it. From where I'm standing here in Chicago, I can see at least 20 actual flags, not to mention all the stickers on people's cars, t-shirts, masks, they're everywhere. Every truly great flag has a lot of meaning, and the Chicago flag has a ton of symbolism baked into a pretty seemingly simple design. To explore that, I need to go somewhere a little bit quieter and a hell of a lot warmer. All right, let's dive into it. The Chicago flag starts with a field of white with a 2:3 proportion. On the field are added 2 sky blue bars. The bars are 1/6 the height of the actual flag, and they are added a little bit less than 1/6 away from the top and the bottom respectively. When you add those bars, it creates 3 separate white areas, and those areas represent the 3 sections of the city: the north, the west, and the south side. If you didn't already guess, the 2 blue bars represent water, the top one representing Lake Michigan and the north branch of the Chicago River, and the bottom one representing the south branch and the Great Canal. And then we have the famous red 6-pointed stars. They're so famous that the NWSL team for Chicago is literally named the Chicago Red Stars, and their branding is just parts of the flag. Wallace Rice made them 6-pointed stars because he believed that 5-pointed stars represented a sovereign state, and Chicago's just a city. He had also never seen a 6-pointed star on a flag before, and so he thought this could be a really unique symbol for Chicago. Some places like Wikipedia assign meanings to every single point on all 4 stars, but that's never referenced anywhere officially, so I'm not going to cover it here. But each star does have a meaning. The original Chicago flag designed by Wallace Rice only had 2 stars, and those stars were positioned towards the hoist of the flag. Of course, now there are 4 stars. Each of the 6-pointed stars represents a major event in Chicago's history. To explain each one of them, I gotta go out in the cold again. The first star on the Chicago flag, the one nearest to the hoist, that represents Fort Dearborn. It was a United States fort built in 1803 right here next to the Chicago River. Fort Dearborn was destroyed in the War of 1812, but the site is still visible here in downtown. You can find these markers along the ground and this plaque right outside of a smash burger. Even though the Fort Dearborn star is the first one on the flag, it is not one of the original 2 stars. In fact, it's the newest addition to the flag. It was added in 1939. The second star is one of the originals, and for that, I gotta go across the river. The first of the original 2 stars represents the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. This fire burned for 2 full days, destroying 17,000 buildings over 3 miles. There's a lot of legends about how the Great Fire started, but nobody really knows for sure. What we do know is that it started right here on DeKoven Street, and on the site of the original barn stands the now Chicago Fire Academy. the Great Fire looms large in Chicago's history. The MLS team in Chicago is named the Chicago Fire, and their branding as well has a ton of the elements we've been talking about. The third star is the other of the original two stars, and it represents the World's Fair Columbian Exhibition, which happened here in Jackson Park in 1893. So many things that we use today were debuted at this World's Fair. The zipper, the Ferris wheel, the Pledge of Allegiance, they all happened first right here. The only thing remaining in Jackson Park from the World's Fair is this building, which is now the Museum of Science and Industry. The fourth star was added in 1933, and it represents the Century of Progress exhibition. This was the second World's Fair type event that's happened here in Chicago, and it celebrated Chicago's centennial. If you look at the shoreline of Chicago, you might notice a really weird looking island sticking out. That is Northerly Island. It was reclaimed out of Lake Michigan. That is where they held this Century of Progress exhibition. So in the same way the United States adds a star for every time there's a new state, the Chicago flag adds a star every time there's a new major historical event in the city. That leads to the very important question, should there ever be a fifth star? Here at the Chicago History Museum, there's an ongoing exhibit where you can choose a reason to add a fifth star to the flag. Some of the proposed reasons include the 1992 Chicago flood, the building of the Sears Tower, and even the response to COVID-19. So what do you think? Should they add a fifth star to the flag? Let me know in the comments, and while you do that, I gotta deliver a box of Chicago flags to Enjoy, which is one of the retailers in Chicago that carries our stuff. Look at that. Our flag's right as you walk in. Personally, after 83 years of the Chicago flag being the same, I think it's pretty set in stone. Adding a fifth star right now would upset a pretty nice status quo. And as resistant as people are to change, I think a lot of people would reject it. Especially the people that have gotten the Chicago flag tattoo. They'd have to make a pretty tough decision. I'm back home, and after all of that, I haven't even told you my favorite part. And that is the Chicago City brand system that is built around this symbolism. This is the mark of truly a great flag, when it becomes the basis for a robust brand system that can be used across the city. If you've made it this far, I just want to say thank you. This is our first of hopefully many videos on this channel. I hope you subscribe to see what we have in store for you. I've got trips planned to different countries. We're gonna be explaining a lot about flags, but please leave a comment. Tell me what you wanna see. I'm Michael from Flags for Good. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Even though the first Dearborn, I'm too cold. I have fucking hypothermia. I swear I have hypothermia. I can't talk.